Good morning. Good morning. I tell you, I was running 2 minutes late and I just asked my daughter, what time is it? She said it was 9:02. I apologize for that 2 minutes, but sometimes we need 2 minutes to get ourselves together. So I'm hoping that you're having a wonderful morning. I'm hoping there's sunshine where you're at. You know, it's a little cloudy today, and I think they forecasted that there would be rain off and on through Friday, but hopefully the weekend is going to be a good weekend. But as we're looking right now, we have to talk about whatever the weather is. We don't want to have it in our spirit that if the weather is bad outside, that we don't feel bad inside. I hope you're having a great morning. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm going to start off with, are you stuck? Yes, we are all stuck periodically on something, someone, some situation. It doesn't matter. We get stuck, but it's temporary. All that is temporary. Good morning, Barbara. How are you doing? I'm going to try to connect with you later on today. But bless you, my friend. Bless you, bless you. But anyway, I'm just saying good morning, good morning, good morning. Today we're talking about wise. How wise are we? Why are we wise? Who do we need to be wise for, from, and why? You know, why is our wise? You know, why is it necessary that we remain wise as we, go through the pandemic and then post pandemic? We need to look at what's next. What is next for us? So anyway, looking up wise, I was trying to figure out, well, what is it that makes us wise, and how young does wisdom come? Because sometimes we can be wise as a young child and we don't get wise until we're very old and seasoned. But today's wise poem is by a gentleman that I kind of thought was pretty cool. Good morning, Sharon. His name is J.J. Bitters, and he's actually a musician by trade. But he said for some reason he also gets inspired to just sometimes just sit and write. And this is called, like, it looks at the beauty of children and their poetry. And it says, this is the wisest poem. He says, the wisest poem has ever been written was written by my daughter, although I've never known her to be much of a scholar. Good morning, Evelyn. She's only 5 years old now, but wise beyond her years. My daughter wrote a poem that moved me into tears. She scribbled down her feelings. A napkin was her scroll, a purple crayon her feather, transcribing all her soul. I read a bunch of sonnets and other poems too, by Whitman, Frost, and Shakespeare, and Maya Angelou. But not a single poem has ever moved me more than words my daughter scribbled. Turn the page. I've looked up at me, and she looked up at me and said, I wrote a little poem, then watched me as I read. Although it was a short one, I hope you will agree. The wisest poem ever. It says, I love me, I love you, and I love we. That's a wise poem. And that came from a 5-year-old. So sometimes we can take, prowess to sit and write just based on what somebody else said. It gives us it girds us up to say, what's next? What's next? Writing something good about something that happened to you and sharing something that brought you to tears or brought you to understand their whys, and then understand how wise it is of what you did with the whys. So good morning, Sharon. Good morning, Evelyn. Glad you're here in the space. So when we talk about wise, it says wise is having or showing experience, knowledge, and good judgment. And it says it looks at the sag of something, the sage of something, the intellect of something, the clever, the learned, the knowledgeable, the informed, the enlightened. It says it's a state of being. Good morning, T. It's a state of being. It's being sharp and knowing something, being sensible, prudent, penetrating, I like that, penetrating, because sometimes you can hear from somebody, they can tell you something, it is wise, 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 and it remains with you. So it is penetrating. It's perceptive, it's clear. It talks about it being strategic, tactical, foresighted, smart, and sane. All those things speak to our wise. Good morning, Ramon. All those things speak to wise and what wise does. Now, we certainly have met in our lifetime wise, unwise people, people that have no business, even talking sometimes, because what they say shows about how uninformed they are, how unknowledgeable they are, how unintelligent they are. Because sometimes the wise means don't say anything. That's wise. You have to wait till it's your turn, but also wait till you know something. Just to be saying something, or speak to speak, it's not always wise. It's not. So when I break it down, I start with the W of wise. And the W of wise speaks to the weightedness, the weight of something, the weighted. And it says that it's what's been attached as being important or value. It's something to be considered, something measurable, something, competent. That would be wise. Good morning, Aaron. So that would be our wise. That looks at how wise makes it, that the weight of what is being said makes it wise. So if somebody says something that has no value, has no trustworthiness to it, has no understanding, one, it's not wise, and two, you give it no weight. You don't put any value in. You say, oh, they could have just been quiet. They could have just been quiet. And I know if you're listening to the airways now, I'm quite sure. Good morning to everybody that comes into the room. But I'm quite sure you've seen things, all the political pundits on TV and all the people that have a spin on what's going on and with life and people and whatever. Some of it's not wise. They should be quiet. But I guess because they're being paid, they're going to say something, even if it doesn't make sense, because they have to have their own twist. So the next letter in wise is the I. And the I talks about the ideals of something, the ideal of something. It's satisfying one's conception of what is perfect and what is most suitable. That's also wise. When you look at what is the idea of something, how does it make sense? Why would I use it? Why would I say it? Why do I need it a part of what I think, And so it talks about, what's existing, only. And some things, they may be idols. They may be idle to think about, but they're not wise to bring forward because they're only in your imagination. You have to remember that. Sometimes imagination can play tricks with you, especially if it's a person that's already having difficulty cognitively. But if you're really talking about the ideal of something, that's talking about, how can you consummate it? How can you make it supreme? How can you make it absolute or copybook or flawless? All those things, it talks about being the ultimate, the model, basically it's the architecture of how somebody put something together. And so that would be an idol, and so wise would be how you put it together and how you can really bring it out. But if it's really something that remains in imagination, then when it's brought out, then it's looked at as being, folly. It's not right. Something's wrong. You say, they could have left that. They could have kept that to themselves. But once again, that's their thinking and not yours. But sometimes people put their thinking out there for you to be a critic. The S of wise is for significant. And significant talks about sufficiently great or important to be worthy of attention and basically noteworthy. So when you look at significant and how it relates to wise, to me, the things that are retained in our memory sometimes are made, from information we got from people that ended up not only being wise, but being accurate, being important enough that we retained it in our memory. And therefore, it became significant. It's like something that I can use that, and having been the 10th child of a family. There were a lot of things that were spoken that because my family had like two families going on in one. There were the older children and the younger children. So we were generations apart because my sister and brother were, for those who don't know, they were old enough to be my parents. So when looking at what became wise to me, some of the things they did, that was wise. Whereas other things, not so wise, because, there might have been some punishment to it, or something may have been, attached to their point of thinking what they were doing was wise. And so sometimes we have to talk about what is significant. So what I took from some of the things that they did that was not good, good morning, Rosie. What I took for some of the things that wasn't good was that I didn't add it on to me. I remembered it as being something that not wise to do, as opposed to being wise to do. So significant talks about something that's being notable. It's being noteworthy. It's remarkable. It's outstanding. It's important. It's weighty. There's that word weighty again. It's serious, looking at the seriousness of something. It's crucial. It's conceptual. It's conceivable. It's materialistic. Sometimes that's how we go. Good morning, Katrina. Sometimes things may be so significant that they also form as being materialized. But it talks about their being memorable. And sometimes, as I said, when you've talked to somebody or you've heard somebody say something so wise, it is memorable and it is retained. It talks about being an impressive thought, an unusual thought sometimes that you never thought of, but somebody helped you get in touch with it. It may be something that's rare, but makes it wise is that it's usable. You can make it a part of you. It talks about being special, being exceptional, and being particular. So all those things bring about the importance of significance and how that relates to our being wise. We shouldn't take on things that don't belong to us. They're not a part of us. And they're not wise. Sometimes people will give you instructions to do something, and when you start doing the instructions, you say, well, this doesn't even make sense. That's because we shouldn't have taken it on as saying that that's the way to do it. Sometimes you do have to go through things to figure out that there may be a different way to do it, or they missed a step. Sometimes people can miss a step, and what they started out was being wise for you ended up not being as wise because something was missing. And you also have to own up to the fact that that's what happens. And the last thing of wise, the E of wise, is for exceptional. Looking at what is the exceptionalness of something, the unusualness. It's not typical, or it's unusually good or outstanding. That talks about the exceptionalness of something. And it talks about that we have to look at when we're looking at wise is it extraordinary? Is it essential? Is it excellent? Is it phenomenal? Is it, is it unequal? Is it unparalleled? Is it unusual? Is it unsuppressed? Is it matchless? Is it second to none? And is it first class? And sometimes when we're looking at exceptional, we don't think of those things as them being wise. But really, when you categorize stuff and you want to put things in order for your head to think about and your heart to carry out in terms of your belief, then you have to put it in categories. Says, is this wise or not wise? Is this something, that really is exceptional, which makes it very wise, which makes it mean I need to hold on to it, and sometimes we don't. We don't even think about it in that context. We think about it only being something that somebody said that we might be able to use. So when we speak about wise, we want to talk about how wise are you? How wise are you of your own wise? So that's your personal wise. And then how, have you gotten some wisdom from other people which also have added to your wise? Have you done that? Hope you're writing it down. Hope you have a pen. Hope you have your coronavirus book, or I go to the dollar store and get me some of these books, these composition books, and I just keep them all filled up with all kinds of information. And I tell you, there's a book in you. So see, I constantly am working at, adding more to my whys. Because yesterday, like we talked, when you tell somebody something, it also tells them about who you are, why you think the way you do, and you're telling your own story versus somebody else making it up. So that's what these books are for you to tell your own story. What is it about you? And then it talks about question number 2 is how much weight do you put in being wise for not just yourselves but listening to others? How much weight do you put in it? How much? Do you give people more credit than you give yourself? Do you have a discerning spirit where at least you're figuring out what wise is for you? Don't know, you know. And it says, and how does this weight of something affect your decisions? So if you've given something a lot of attention, and we've all been fooled. We've been fooled by people. We've been fooled by projects. Like I always think about those pyramid type things. And oh yeah, you get in the middle of a pyramid, you're going to make a lot of money. Well, you find out that that's not true. For a lot of people, it's not true because it's a 24-hour demanding kind of job. And I've been in a couple of them. And every time I got in them, I thought it was a wise thing to do. And when I got out, I thought it was more wise or better wise. Let me put it that way. Sometimes we don't know what we're going into, but once we get in, the wise is to turn around. The wise is to get out of something. The wise is to say I'm no longer stuck. I'm not stuck on what I was doing before. And then what are your ideas about doing things? Do you need other people's influences, or can you make up your own ideas, which therefore have it that you are your own wise? You are your own wise. Nobody has to tell you anything to make it confirm to yourself that you're okay. The next wise talks about the next word talks about what is the significance, how significant is the placement of you using your being wise in your life, and how does it help your future? How significant is it that you're wise and you're making what I would say good decisions for your future? Write them down. And the last question is, how exceptional are you in regarding your life? How exceptional? What is it that makes it, so important to you that you use your time here? Because even when you go through the idea of our life, we don't, even the history of the world says that we don't have much time here. And so what are we doing with our time? Are we leaving the legacy that we didn't just waste a lot of time while we were here? And even I asked early on when I was started doing these training sessions, when you're home and the TV becomes 95% of your watch time, you never read anything. I don't want people to tell me stuff all day long. I want to search it out. I am a researcher, and I will go deep and find out, well, what else do I need to know about this area? And how can I apply that to what it is I want to do going forward? And sometimes we don't do that. We need to, but we don't always do it. So that's my stuff on wise today. I'm hoping and praying that you look at wise being important enough that you put time in it, that you don't make decisions based on, ill-advised or ill-willed activity, because people will tell you, come along with me, and you end up being stranded. You end up being at the end of a pier and you can't go back, because the other portion of the pier was cut off by the storm or whatever happened. So sometimes we do have to be people that look ahead of what might come. We have to consider the might along our being wise, because to me that is wise, is that we're looking at what else could happen versus just I'm going out there. And sometimes we go outside without an umbrella, raincoat, and rain boots. We just go out, whatever happens. But we don't always want to live our lives like that. To me, the pandemic has showed me that I need to spend more time in understanding who I am, why I am, and what I hope to accomplish in my period of being here. How else can I do that if I don't put time in it? And so I have to talk about not just the love of myself, but the love of others who may love me, who may care about me, who may be concerned about me. But also what I'm putting out there in the wind, what I'm putting out there in the ears that may hear me, that they say, wow, she did her best. I do my best to try to be my best me, to do my best wise, as they say. But sometimes we falter. We're going to fall short, but we just have to get back up. We have to get back up. We don't want to look back. We don't want to make it to be that we turn into what we don't want to be. We want to be the best of who we are. And that requires us to be wise about how we live, wise about what we see, wise about what we hear, wise about what we do. And the only way we can do that is certainly that we stay present in what it is that we're in charge of. The things we have no control over, laissez-faire. We have no control over. We have no control. I hope you're going to have a wise day. I hope you would have a productive day of doing something that's wise for you. And maybe the people that encounter you during this day or days hereafter, they'll say, wow, wise. That was wise. That was wise. So you just enjoy your day. Certainly, I love you, even if I've never seen you before. But I want you to come into this space again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Central Daylight Time. And then I also have a YouTube channel, which is Sandra Lee Gary Winborn. I think the Gary's not there. Sandra Lee Gary, PhD. Sandra Lee Winborn, PhD. That's what it's under. Certainly go to that, and you will find all of the other, I think it's like 51 videos that are out there. So I wish you love, wish you happiness, and please be wise this day and every day thereafter. Have a good day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.